Allahu Akbar. Just waiting. Okay, I'm just waiting for the signal from brother. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah walhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbana zidna ilman ya kareem. Last time, the voice is very loud. Can you guys hear the echo? Yeah, maybe. Could be my scarf. Bismillah. 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 All right. Bismillah. So, inshallah, last time we talked about Quranic character and we gave a introduction, and we said that there were certain verses from the Quran that lay the foundation for us to be able to actually understand the importance of character and khuluq in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we also talked about examples from the life of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how they play. Now, today's discussion is more on the element of understanding characteristics and what are the different schools of thought when it comes to how does insan develop khuluq. So if you look at the world today, there are many schools of thought. The two primary ones is one, they believe that you cannot change the khuluq of an insan. So you are born with the body and you're born with the ruh, and that is a constant. And whatever set of features that car got, that human being got, you are stuck with that. And there is no change that can ever happen. And the only way you can change, or you can bring that change, if the change does occur, then that change is a change of a temporary nature. Just like water that is cold, and when it is brought with fire, it will boil, but when the fire is gone, the change is gone. And that is why the Western societies and the Western philosophy is developed heavily on qawaneen, rules, principles, and enforcement of those rules. And the self-regulation, it is understood that the rules must exist for a certain normative behavior to prevail through a society. So what happens when, in the absence of rule, in the absence of when electricity is gone, what happens in downtown usually? Chaos. People go break glasses. Why? Because the entire society was developed, and the premise on which they've built this Western world is danda. There has to be a rule. As long as the rule works, then it really doesn't matter. As long as you've got the fire underneath the water, people will conform. We are not in the business of changing the khuluq, the character. We're not in that business. We don't need to do any of that. People will automatically conform to the rules. We are not of this opinion that people can ever change. This leads to a lot of problems. This leads to the problems that you and I are facing today. Because it's the rules then start determining what is right and wrong. And when the rule changes, you are left with no moral conscience or choice except to conform to that rule. When the rule says, like in Canada, in Ontario, when the rule says that if the person across, they identify as a cat or a dog, you must accept. So right now what is happening in public schools is, a lot of you are probably not aware of this, but maybe some of the younger ones are, they have this furry fandom world, this world where this entire, they're called furries. Do you guys know this? You guys are laughing at this. What is that what it's called? Furry? Yeah. Yeah. So I went to a public school in Canada. When I arrived there, I saw a guy dressed like a dog. He's got a tail, he's got fangs. And then when you call him Jacob, he's like, whoa, whoa. He responds. The teachers are forced, as part of this type of philosophy, to conform to the rule that you must call upon this person the way he seems fit for himself. Now, we had, and this is coming down here, guys. Like, this is, you guys are only like 5 to 7 years behind. This is still far, like it's far-fetched for people to believe, but that has already happened in California. It has already happened in New York. It has already happened like Missouri, Minnesota. It has already happened in all these states. So it is north and it's going to come down south. The other part about this philosophy that is really scary is that there is no moral compass. It's the collective nafs of the people, or whoever has money and power decides what can be right and wrong. And we saw that in the mass killing of the Jewish people by Hitler. Were there not people that were living in Germany? There were people living in Germany. And they were completely okay with the killing of all of these 3 million, 6 million Jews. Absolutely, they felt nothing wrong with it. Because they followed, that's what the rule and law says. Okay? So why is it important for us to study Quranic character? Because it gives us that moral compass that is disconnected from the rest of the world. Now, the Christian faiths, or the Jewish faith, or the Buddhists, or the Hindus, or even to the extent, other not like religious, but they're religions, but they're really not known religions, and Islam, all of them are based on a moral compass. There are universal values, especially the monotheistic religions, right? If you add Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and if you take the opinion of some of the Mufassirun like Ibn Kathir and stuff, that even Zoroastrians are Ahlul Kitab, like people who sun worshippers, Zoroastrians, because they existed and they had a book, but they tahrif of their religion. So Zoroastrians. So if you add those four, they're people of the book. We have set rules and codes of what is right and wrong. So this second side of the equation, people, they believe that people are susceptible to change. Otherwise, the whole purpose of prophethood is null and void. Why have prophets if people can't change? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the prophet so that, when the deviance has happened, that deviance can be brought back to the center of where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants that deviance, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it back. Examples of that, like if you look around us, the soccer world knows this very well. The difference between Messi and Ronaldo, what's the difference? Come on, all of your kids probably know this. Wow, sure. Messi won the World Cup. But like if you look at their styles, what's the difference between Ronaldo and Messi? Talent versus hard work. Okay? Messi, talent. He has to put in the hard work, but not as much as Ronaldo. Right? Ronaldo, he had to put in a lot more hard work. Actually, Ronaldo, he has this routine where, he follows this thing called a polyphasic sleep. Anybody knows about that? So he doesn't sleep. Ever since he's been playing professionally, he hasn't slept for 8 hours straight ever. It's been 17 years, he has not slept for 8 hours. He only sleeps for 45 minutes to an hour, gets the power nap, and then he's got a mini day within a day. So he's got 12 or I think 7 days within 24 hours. So he sleeps for an hour, goes to the gym, and does a specific type of workout, has a certain type of meal, and goes back to sleep. Wakes up, meal, sleep. Wakes up, meal, sleep. This is how he lives his life pre-coming to the tournament. In the tournament, he has a completely different set of routines. So much hard work and dedication. You have LeBron James, right? He's a 40-year-old player. They lost last night and they left. They're no longer in the playoffs. But A 40-year-old player, he spends around $1.5 million on his body every year. Just on his body. And he's like, this is the, why is that? Because it is hard work with character, with dedication. You look at around us, for example, the examples of circus. You have these vicious, ferocious animals that have no aql. They don't have intellect like you and I. But with training and repetition, they can be trained to obey, and they can be trained to conform to commands at the will of the trainer. So what about our own nafs? What about our own khul? It's the same thing. At-takrar, you look at what you want to do, you repeat it enough times. If you repeat it enough times, it becomes something which is called malaka. It becomes something that you never have to think about it. When you enter the masjid, you will automatically enter with the right foot. When you leave the masjid, you'll automatically leave with the left foot. When you're putting on your pants or your shalwar, you will know the sunnah that you need to sit down and put them up. You shouldn't be putting them on standing. But this becomes autopilot. You don't think about these things, right? But then you have to start inculcating those habits and characteristics one thing at a time and do takrar on them. Okay. The next part is, does the change happen? Does this environment have an effect on us? Or does the change happen from within and we affect the environment? What do you guys think? Both ways. Both ways. Both ways. So inshallah, in our next halaqa, we'll talk about it, that there are 6 verses in the Quran, total 6 verses, that prove to us that the external also has an impact on us, as well as the internal. That is why the ayah that we said last time, that inna Allah la yughayyiru ma bi qawmin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change that which is in the qawm. So whichever state that qawm is in, your external environment will not be changed hatta, until yughayyiru, they change ma bi anfusihim, until they change that which is from within. So change from within, and the environment outside supports the process of change within. The next session, inshallah, that we'll do, I'll focus a little bit on habits and how the science of habit works, what we know from the science of habit today. Okay, there's lots of books that have. Sure, inshallah. The science of habit is something very important, because once we embark on different characteristics, we must know that how do I develop a habit, right? And again, it's an entire science about it. There's lots of books that have been written on habits. If you want to pick up, you can pick up, various books that are written. The best one that is out there is called Atomic Habits. Atomic Habits. If you have time before our next halaqa, I would highly recommend that you pick up that book. If you don't have time to read, at least download the Audible audio file of that. If you have Amazon Prime, you will be definitely able to download it for free. Or you might have to pay whatever, $10, $12. Listen to the book at least 2-3 times, because Atomic Habit is basically the closest study that I have seen amongst many of the books that I've read on habits, which will outline to us how the external environment as well as the internal, so there are 2 inputs, the external input and how you design your external environment. Design, and I use the word design, to facilitate your khuluq and characteristics, and how you focus on the internal, how you focus on the internal inputs, which would be from this halaqa and the inspirations that we get from the ayat and hadith of Prophet ﷺ. The internal process of change began for Umar radiallahu anh. It is mentioned that he had a female servant that converted to Islam before Umar radiallahu anh. The seerah books talk about it. What did he used to do with her? He used to torture her. Until when? How much would he torture her? Until he would get tired. He would beat her up until, as a man, he would get tired of beating her up. And then he would take a rest because he got tired of beating her up. Okay? That same Umar towards the end of his life, he would wake up in the middle of the night when he would be sleeping, radiallahu anh, and he would like shiver and wake up, and they would ask him what happened. He said, I'm afraid that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask me about a goat that is walking in the streets of Baghdad. That, Ya Umar, why did you not pave the path for this goat? Because this goat got hurt. Because you did not pave the path. Or the donkey that fell in a well, because, Ya Umar, لِمَاذَا مَا تُغْلِقْ? Why did you not close the cover of the sewer? That same Umar turned from the one who used to beat his own servant until he got tired, from this extreme to that extreme. How did that happen? Internal environment, internal input, and external input. The other example is the one that I gave in the khutbah a few weeks back, which is of Fudail ibn Iyad, where he got up on the mimbar, he got up on the wall, he was about to enter the house of this woman, and he heard somebody recite the Quran that, has it the time not come for you, an takhsha'a qulubuhum li dhikrillah, that has the time not come for people that their hearts are trembled from the dhikr of Allah? And he said, Ana ya Rabb, and he did tawbah, and he became one of the famous people in the science of tazkiyah and tasawwuf. He is known as, like when you read that who were the saints, or who were these people who understood the nafs. He went from being a qati'ut tariq, he used to be a bandit, he would like steal people, kill people. From there, with one verse that triggered. And that leaves me with this message for everyone. When we come to these gatherings, wallahi, neither you nor me can guarantee ourselves hidayah. None of us can guarantee that. I know a person, all of you guys are using this Quran apps. I know the person who wrote the code for it. He has left Islam. He used to live in my city. He is the guy who wrote the code for every single Quran app that is used. That's the main text source code that is used in Corpus Quran. He was the one who did it. Spent 9 years, dedicated his entire nights for the sake of Allah to write that code. And now he has a YouTube channel where he promotes people leaving Islam. So we should never think that I come to the masjid and now Allah has, this hidayah, this guidance of Allah has nothing to do with my ibadah or your ibadah. It is only the fadl of Allah and His fadl and His rahmah that you and I are here. Likewise, it is only His fadl and His rahmah that this verse, you don't know, like Fudail ibn Iyad, when we come to these gatherings, which ayah will Allah allow to penetrate to the depths of your hearts and change your environment, and can become the source of changing. The one who wrote the Arabic language code and the person who wrote the entire Arabic language grammar and stuff, Saib Hawaii. Right? Saib means what in Urdu? Apple. Hawaii means the scent. So his name was Saib Hawaii, the scent of an apple. Saib Hawaii passed away, and his students, they saw Saib Hawaii in the dream. So obviously the student asked, ماذا فعل الله بك? What did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do with you? The student is concerned about his teacher. So Saib Hawaii responded, he says, غفر الله لي جميع ذنوبي. Allah has forgiven all my sins. Allah make us from those, inshallah. Allah has forgiven all my sins. لماذا? Why? What did you do? Like which surah, which ayah, which Quran, what did you do? He said, because of one sentence I wrote in my book. What is that sentence? I'll explain to you. So in the Arabic language, there are dama'ir, there are pronouns. There are certain pronouns. For example, there are third person, second person, first person. In English, we know that, right? So there's huwa, somebody, third person. Anta, ana. Okay? So in terms of ma'rifah, in terms of knowing, I know myself the most. Anta, if I'm doing second degree, that is a second. So the highest degree of pronoun is ana. Then the second degree is anta. Then the third degree is huwa, because ghaib, you don't know who that person is. So Sebhawayh, that was the known fact throughout history. Sebhawayh comes and he says that is wrong. Ana or nahnu, I or we, is not a'raful ma'arif. It's not the best, highest degree of pronouns. Allah is the highest degree, because Allah knows you better than yourself. So he said, Allahu a'raful ma'arif. Allah is the highest degree of any pronouns, because no pronoun can know anyone better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of this statement, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave all of his sins. So as we come to these gatherings, come with this mind that which you don't know which ayah, which hadith, which statement of whatever Allah gives us tawfiq to say may penetrate your heart and becomes a source of changing you. And also come for the environment, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim tasliman kathira. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها أنت وليها ومولاها يا رب العالمين. اللهم أصلح لنا أخلاقنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم أصلح لنا أخلاقنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اصلح لنا أخلاقنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعلنا من المهديين. اللهم اجعلنا من المهديين. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصرنا على تغيير أخلاقنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم نحن ضعفاؤك لا طاقة لنا به بالتغير. اللهم غير أخلاقنا إلى الأفضل واجعل أخلاقنا مثل أخلاق النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وصل اللهم تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. بارك الله.